Just got back from an overlanding trip and decided it was time to make some upgrades to this truck to make the bed space more usable. So I got some supplies here. I'm going to create a DIY bed pullouts to make my totes and stuff more accessible that are in the bed of the truck. Because I got the tonneau cover on, I don't want to have to climb in there to try to get things out, or use a shovel or something with a handle to hook onto totes and drag them out to where I can use them. So got some supplies here. I'll show you what I got, and I even got a plan put together on how I want to do it. So I'll show you what that looks like. Here we go. All right, I even got my blue beverage here for the blue truck to keep me hydrated. Let's open this thing, take a look. So basically, I got that empty bed. I don't want to knock holes in the bed or drill holes or bolt anything, so I want to make a bed design here with pullouts that doesn't require attachments. So I'll put a series of slides in here and plywood in between that I can roll out. So let me show you my plan. Alright, so what I got here is a plan that shows, you know, a narrow slide out here. It'll go out that way, and a wider one here. I got the large totes and I got the small totes. I even have a cooler that I want to keep in there. So I've measured these out. You measured the width of the bed between the wheel wells and determined that I can fit this many totes in that much space with very little to spare, so I make best use of the space. That's the top view looking down on the bed, and then this is the end view looking into the bed, where you can see the cooler. I got a lower slide out to accommodate the extra height of the cooler, so it clears the cover, and then I got the higher slide out to handle my regular totes, these here, and still have space underneath to where I can slide a lifetime fold-out table or something under here, to where the rollers will slide on either side of it, and I can still keep a table under there safe and sound and good storage, so I don't have to put it up on top. Oh, and this is kind of a top view of the rails, the 2x4 rails that I'll put in there as guides to keep the roll-out shelves in line, so they're not bumping into each other. Okay, so now that I got a plan, I was able to determine how much material I needed. I needed one sheet of plywood, 4 2x4s for the rails. I have some pull-outs for the drawers. I got some fasteners to attach the rollers on the bottom. I got some small rollers for the shallow clearance rollout. Got some bigger rollers for the higher clearance rollout. And I got some various, safety glasses. Got my square, drill bit, chalk line, measuring tool, ear protection, saw. I'm gonna get that all set up and get started. Alright, got the sawhorses set up. Just gotta grab the plywood and get it on there and measured. Alright, trick of the trade. Put the rough side of the plywood up so that when you make the cuts with the skill saw, the blades are cutting up into the good side so it doesn't fray the good side. So measure twice, cut once. Alright, when I measured this out, I figured I needed 16.5 inches from the wheel well to the runner in order to get the cooler to fit in there without rubbing on the sides. But I want to make sure I get that set right, and it's going to tie into this crossboard at the end of the bed there, and I will measure it and attach it here, here, and here to make sure that I got those where they need to be, and then I'll do a similar attachment on this front end right here to make sure they stay the same width. So I didn't show this in any of my other videos, but I added this extra, this bed step, so that I can get up into the bed of the truck. Seems how it's so high off the ground. Okay, I'm going to lift this tonneau cover back so you can see in here better. Alright, so there's the bed at the back there by the cab. Looks like those corners are angled. Looks like it's a little steeper than a 45-degree angle. And it looks like that on both sides, so I'll have to cut the edge of those or the ends of those 2x that are on an angle to see if they can fit a little better. Short point of the angle to the short point of the angle looks like it's 59 and 59 1/4 roughly. Get that on a 45 degree. All right, it was 59 1/4 from the short end of that angle over there. So we'll mark that. And cut that. Looks like that's good. Looks like it fits good on both sides. Now I'll measure in to the wheel well, make a mark. Measure my 16 1/2 that I need, make a mark. And the other wheel well over here, make a mark. I don't have a real good way to determine where that wheel well is back here. So I'm going to use a framing square and slide it to the back here. Get it tight to that. And then slide it over right here until it touches the wheel well. And that should be where it needs to be. I'll make a mark right there. Okay. I'll do the same on the other side. And then, once I do it on this side, then I can do my math, measure it all out, and make sure it matches. Okay, it looks like I'm where I need to be. Okay, I got my mark. All right. Now I can measure it out and check it. Let's mark my spots. There's my first mark right there. And this is my mark on the other side. Before I make the full one, I'll double check it. I should have 50 1/2 inches between those marks. So that's 51. So it's off a little bit. If I split the difference on either side, I should line up where I need to be. Got that marked. I know that on this left side I need to have 16 1/2 inches minimum. From the wheel well there to the edge of the runner. So that's my runner. That's my edge. I'll do the same on the other side. Alright, so now I've got to check the length of my runners. So I'll put this board in where it goes. Okay. And then I'll set my runner in here. Push it up tight. Okay. And cut those lengths, stick them in. Okay, so right here I have a plan to bridge this gap with the rollers with a piece of plywood that'll fold down. So I'm going to hold these runners back a good inch so that the plywood plus this bulge doesn't hit when I shut the tailgate. Alright, let's check it. Set that runner in there. Looks like the back a good inch. And just to double check I don't hit the tailgate, just go ahead and lift that tailgate up and check it. Okay, looks like I've still got 3/4 of an inch for any plywood to fit in there, so I'm good. Alright, I know that I needed 16 1/2 inches from the wheel well to the runner, but I want to have room for this plywood to slide in and out without rubbing. So I'm going to go 1/4 inch less, giving an inch or 1/8 of an inch on both sides of the gap so it'll roll in and out freely. I'll do that same measurement on the other end, and then I'll chalk a line. So I have a chalk line, put that on the mark there. Double check the string in the middle, 16 1/8. Okay, we're good. Okay, so my cooler is 25.5 inches long, and I want to make sure I have plenty of room. So I'm going to go 26 inches, and that's going to be where I need to make allowance for the runner that's along the wheel well. This runner, the wheel well's here because this is upside down. So the wheel well's here, so I got to take this off 1.5 inches to allow for that runner. So I'm going to mark that up and get that cut. So I did some math. I got 50.5 inches overall width of the bed between the wheel wells, minus 16.5, minus a runner. That's each side, that's 3 more inches, and then I minused the 1/8 inch gap on either side. I ended up having 30.75 inches for the remaining piece on the big side. So I'll go ahead and mark that and get it cut too. Alright, being that I'm marking stuff, I know that my runner was 73 1/8 inches long, so I wanted to mark my plywood here and there, chalk a line and cut it to length before I do the long cuts. That'll give me the biggest piece of scrap that I can use for maybe some other project. So zooming in on the cooler portion, is going to sit right here, and it has to be lower and wider than the runner will allow. So I got to have the runner go underneath that, but the runner can sit right here for the rest of it, so the plywood slides in and out. This has got to slide into it. So the runner I have to cut down so it fits underneath this. Okay, if this were the runner and this was my plywood deck that's holding the cooler on here with the wheel underneath it rolling on the bed of the truck right here, this runner has to be cut to this height here so that this plywood can run over the top of it. But for the rest of it, it can run beside it. So that's the height of my roller. So I'll put my pencil on the height of the roller and then I'll mark it. Alright, there's my mark. I just need to cut it on that, and then 26 inches I'll have to cut up like that to get back to full height. Alright, there's the runner all cut down. Alright, so now it's time to assemble. So I got this piece from the back, put it right here. There's my marks where this board needs to go. I set that where it needs to go, and I'm going to screw it in place so that it's secure, and I'll do that with the other two, and then I'll set it in place where it needs to go. Alright, I'm going to pre-drill the holes because there's a knot here which makes this putting the screws in hard to do, so I'm going to pre-drill this. Alright, here we go. Do that with the rest of them. Here we go. Okay, set that in the truck and check it out. Alright, I like it. Now let's check the plywood. Alright, this is the small side. Slide Sets up on that ledge right there with those small rollers. And I'll put the big one in, make sure it fits. All right, looks like I got some wiggle room in there all the way around. Looking good. I just got to get the rollers on it and I should be in business. All right, so I want these rollers to sit on these high-end grooves up here in the truck bed. So I just need to measure how far over left or right they need to go, put a mark on the plywood, and get them attached. So I'll do a row right here, I'll do another row right here, and I'll do the same on this big one. So my idea was to get rollers here and here so I can slide a table in the middle that's 2 feet wide. So as long as my rollers are at least 2 feet wide and sitting on the ridges of the bed, I should be good. So my rollers here and here. So I'll measure from the side. I think I want to have my rollers at 2 and maybe 12. That should hit them on that groove pretty good. All right, so measuring on the wood upside down, measure from the opposite side, 2, and then a roller, and 12, and a roller. I'll mark those up and screw those on. I figured I'd have 8 per sheet, so 2, 4, 6, and 2 on that end right there. All right, so I put the 2 wheels here and here to support the cooler, and then for the rest of it, I just evenly distributed out the wheels. Put those in, make sure they're lined up with the line good so they're not rolling crooked. All right, casters are on. Time to put it in the truck. Wheels are on. Look at that. Heck yeah. All right, because I got a table that's 2 foot wide that's going to slide in here, I want to make sure the casters sit on these other ridges. So I want to make sure I got 2 foot in width. And that gets me between this edge and this edge here. As long as the casters are sitting on this closest one here and the closest one there, we should be good. All right, one more design deal. The table I have is 4 foot long, so if I put the table in there 4 foot here, that means I can put that second to the last row and the last row of casters in a little bit so that when I slide the table in, it hits the wheel so it doesn't go so far back in there I can't grab it. All right, so I got it set up. This is the back end where the wheels are more in the center of the plywood but still hitting the ridges, and then I have these ones spread out so that that table will sit right in the middle, and then those 2 wheels there will help drag it out when I pull the drawer out. All right, I got the wheels on this. Just like that. I put the wheels in the middle down there to pull the table out, and then let's see how it works. We'll see if it fits good. I'll get a table under there and make sure it works. All right, well here's the table. I wanted to slide on under there. Can't go back any further than that because of the wheels I put in the middle. And then the drawer on the table. So it worked as planned. Awesome. Okay, one last design thing that I have figured out for this is I don't want this to flop up and I don't want my totes to slide off. So I'm going to put this rail in there like this, and I'm going to overhang this a little bit so that this doesn't come up, and this upright will keep the totes from sliding off of the rail. I can do that on all edges. I can do that right there. There, and I can double this one up right here. And I'm going to put my totes on there. So I want that tote to go to the back. Got this tote next. fishing poles. Fishing tackle. There you go. Pull that out. And I can access these totes without having to climb in the truck. But, so now I can put the top down. I won't have to flop the top back to access that stuff in the back there. All right, well that's turned out to be a success so far. I got to do some finishing touches on it still, but overall I'm pretty satisfied with it. This drawer comes out and pulls the table out with it. I need to get handles on there so that I can grab it better. With two hands I can do it okay, but you know, these slide out so I can get access to those totes that are way back in there. Got a motion sensor light in there so I can see inside. All right, so a big part of this bed slide out unit is I customized it to fit this specific cooler. I want to make sure that that fits before I get too much further. So get that out where it needs to go. Put this cooler on there. And I'm going to make sure that it clears the cover like I hope it will. And works out great. Plus, I actually have a 110 plug right here in the back where I can actually plug in the cooler, and it can be running off the inverter on the truck while I'm driving. And then when I turn the truck off, then it can run on this battery or solar panel if we're camping. So looks like that's a success. Looks like it's the clearance is just what we hoped. So we're good to go. All right, now that I got it all roughed in and made sure that everything works the way I want it to work, I went down and picked up this board here that I can put on the front face here, right there, and I'll put that on the hinge, and it'll flop down and it'll cover that gap so the wheels don't fall in this gap between the bed and the tailgate. Also, what it'll do is the hinges attached to these runners will keep the runners in line with where they need to be. So I'll get those attached with hinges, make sure it all functions fine. And then I got some Rhino liner, truck bed liner, same as what's on the bed here, to protect these surfaces for wear and tear and moisture. All right, I got my zombie certified paint booth area. I'm gonna paint that plywood with the Rhino liner. All right, we had a weather delay. I started to paint that stuff yesterday and started to rain. So anyway, it's a nice sunny day today. I got my frame out here. I'm gonna paint it black before I get the hardware put on it. Likewise with the trays, I'll get the Rhino liner put on there. I'll start doing that now while it's nice and sunny and everything can dry quick. All right, got it all painted. Time to get some hardware put on this thing so I can get it back in the truck as a finished product. First off, I got to put the hinges on right here, there, and there. That'll tie to this right here as my little bridge that bridges that gap right here. So I'll get that done first, and then I'll flip it over and I'll put my dividers on that keep the totes in place. All right, so my plan is to put this hinge on upside down right there. So this will lay on the bottom of the bed of the truck. And then this side rail will hook on there like that, and then it'll fold down over the gap. All right, got those hinges on. This one, because it was so thin and in the end, I pre-drilled those holes so wood wouldn't split out. Get ready to flip it over. All right, I want to get these rails on. I want them to hang over just a little bit. So I'm going to dead center these two on this one, so they hang over the equal amount on either side. And then on this one, I'll hang over a 1/2 inch, just enough to hold that drawer from flopping up. Plus it gives that ledge for the totes don't slide off. I want to evenly distribute the fasteners. I'll probably put 4 on each. Put 1 on the end, and then every 16 inches should be plenty. So I'll make a mark every 16 inches and then one. So that'll be 4 fasteners. And I'll put one in the end piece and then 3 in the rail. I'll do that on each. I'm going to pre-drill each of those. Alright, to help me out here, these were flopping all over the place while I was trying to get these down. So I put the top screws in and the bottom screws in so that I can mark and drill the others without having them moving around on me. Alright, hardware's on and attached. So I just set it up on the tailgate. So I'll just be able to slide it in. Get it right into place. So those will come down and fasten to this, and then this will just flip up and hold everything in. So fasten that down, and then this will flip up out of the way so I can shut the tailgate. Alright, one more thing. I want to get those handles on that drawer before I put it in, so when that's weighted down with all those totes and gear, I can still have some leverage to pull those out, pull that drawer out. Alright, now for the last but pretty important part of the puzzle here. This end piece will flop up here out of the way so we can put the tailgate. And it bridges that gap between the tailgate and the bed. But even more importantly than that, this is what's going to keep my rails left and right where they need to be by attaching the hinge to them. So that'll keep my drawers and everything straight, parallel, and square, so everything should flow nicely. So I'm going to go ahead and start by getting the end ones in, and then I'll move this middle one over to where it needs to be left to right before I attach that last hinge. And after that, should be in business. Alright, truck bed slide out project complete for now. Probably add some more things to it later as I need them, but for now it's ready. Let's take a look. So this flops down here. There's a bridge to cover that, so that I can access my totes. Put this back away if I need to. I can also access my cooler and my totes. If I pull it out, I'm going to have a flop down leg if I pull it out any further. But most importantly, the cooler's in there, plugged in, and cold, ready for a Coke Zero to celebrate completion. Anyway, hopefully you found this informative. Maybe if you were in the market to purchase a truck bed organizer or build your own, the super nice with the roll-out drawers and everything, that's the factory built units, those are like $2,000, $1,500 depending on the unit, and they didn't fit the needs that I had, so I came up with this design so that it would fit the totes that I had and the design that I needed. So anyway, thanks for watching. Catch you on the next adventure.